Read about Samson if you haven't already so that you can fully understand what it is that I'm talking about. One thing we can learn about Samson or from Samson is that the kind of person that you're attracted to, that can lead you towards a negative outcome for your life. So let's take a closer look at the kind of women that Samson's attracted to. So at Judges 14 verse 14, Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah, he saw one of the daughters of the Philistines, which later ended up becoming his wife. But before she became his wife, he said to his father and mother, I saw one of the daughters, now get her for me as a wife. So Samson was saying this to his parents before he had even had a conversation with the woman. So what we can maybe think from that or get from that was that she was most likely attractive, or to Samson, he was attracted to what he saw. She was most likely beautiful. Later on, Samson then went down and talked to the woman, and it says she was right in Samson's eyes. So he didn't talk to her. He didn't get to know her. He just basically saw her exterior and said, now get her for me as my wife. So he didn't even really have a conversation or get to know her, it sounds like. Oh, I'm sorry. The first part was Judges 14. It might have been verse 1. I don't know why I put 14. If we go to Judges 14, verse 15, I believe it is. On the fourth day, they said to Samson's wife, entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. So Samson told this riddle, I believe it was to the Philistine men, and they wanted the answer. And because they had no idea what it was, they told Samson's wife to entice Samson so that he would tell her the answer. And if we look up what entice means, entice is to lure or persuade someone into sin, temptation, or wrongdoing, often using deception or flattering words. And that made me question, why would Samson's wife even listen to them? Why would she consider what it is that they're saying if her loyalty is to her husband? But at the same time, they threatened her, and they might have threatened her in Samson's presence. So I'm like, why wouldn't Samson do anything? But just keep that in mind, that the Philistine men told Samson's wife to entice her husband. When we go to Judges 14 verse 16, it says, and Samson's wife wept over him and said, you only hate me, you do not love me. You have put a riddle to my people, and you have not told me what it is. So that sounded a little bit off to me, because she's basically telling him, you don't love me because you're not telling me what the answer to the riddle is. Now, if Samson was there when they were threatening her, then I can understand a little bit more why she would be feeling like he doesn't love her, because if he doesn't give her the answer to the riddle, then they're going to burn her. But if that's not the case, for a woman or a man to tell someone, oh, you don't love me because you won't do X, Y, and Z, that's kind of like manipulative. So I don't want to say that she was saying it in a manipulative way, but it doesn't really sound right. You only hate me, you do not love me. And she's weeping to him over it. But then we also need to take into account the way that Samson is behaving. But next is Judges 14, verse 17. She wept before him the 7 days that their feast lasted. And on the seventh day he told her, because she pressed him hard. Then she told the riddle to her people. So Samson ended up giving her the answer to the riddle, because she wept for 7 days and she pressed him hard. So it sounds like she was really persistent. And Samson gave into that. He gave into the consistency or the continuous weeping. Him being her husband, maybe it would have been cruel if he just continued to not give her the answer to the riddle. But at the same time, it shows her dedication to getting the answer out of him. At Judges 14 verse 20, and Samson's wife was given to his companion who had been his best man. Now this made me question, why didn't she say no? Or maybe she wasn't allowed to. Maybe during this time she wasn't necessarily allowed to say no to going with Samson's companion. But basically what I got from Samson's wife was that they told her to entice him, and then she really cried to him to try to get a response out of him. She kind of went along with She kind of went along with what her father did. Like I didn't really sense her dedication and loyalty to Samson, but at the same time Samson might have been behaving a little bit off, especially if they might have threatened her in Samson's presence and he didn't do anything. But let's move on to Judges 16 verse 1. Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute and he went into her. So again, we're seeing that Samson is going to this woman that he most likely didn't know beforehand, didn't have a conversation with her. He most likely didn't really know her. So this is starting to sound like Samson might be letting himself be led by some sort of lust, or maybe there's some sort of lust there that he's going to a prostitute. And prior to that, the woman that became his wife, he wanted her as his wife before he had even spoken to her. He just simply saw her. Judges 16 verse 4. We're moving on to Delilah. So the lords of the Philistines wanted to know where Samson's great strength came from. And they said to Delilah, because Samson had fallen for Delilah, or like Delilah, they said to her, seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him. So they're telling Delilah to seduce Samson once again. This is very similar to what they said to his wife when they wanted the answer to the riddle, and it kind of made me think of familiar spirits, or a familiar spirit, because it's another familiar. It's like the situation's being replicated. There's a woman and she's being told to entice or to seduce the man in order to bring him down or to get out of him what it is that they want. So seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him. And seduce is basically the same thing as entice. They both mean to lure, mislead, persuade someone, often through deception or flattery. So it just sounds like it's this same situation coming up against Samson again, and he's not discerning it. He's not recognizing it. How is it two completely different scenarios? And it's almost the same thing that's being said to the women that he's associating himself with. What the men are telling the women to do in order to capture Samson, something basically evil that they're asking them to do. But if we look at Judges 16 verse 6, so Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength lies and how you might be bound that one could subdue you. So Delilah went ahead and she started questioning Samson. At Judges 16 verse 15, she said, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? And once again, this sounds very similar to his wife when she was saying, you only hate me, you do not love me, because you're not giving me the answer to the riddle. And she's saying, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? It's not the exact wording, but it's almost like a very familiar or similar statement or phrase. You have mocked me 3 times, and you have not told me where your great strength lies. And every single time that Samson has lied to her, she's still tried what it is that Samson has told her would be the answer. Like she still went against him and tried to get him to fall. And when she pressed him hard with her words day after day and urged him, his soul was vexed to death. So once again, similar to the wife, Delilah is pressing him hard day after day and urging him. His soul was vexed. So instead of Samson stepping away or fleeing the situation, she continues to ask him the same thing time after time. And he should be noticing that she's doing the things that he's telling her will get rid of his great strength. So why not flee, or why not distance himself from her once he starts recognizing this behavior? Maybe he's not recognizing it at all, but she pressed him. She was very persistent and consistent with asking him, it sounds like, similar to the wife. At Judges 16, verse 18, when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up again, for he has told me all his heart." So Delilah was aware of this. Delilah it seemed like she was aware of this. She had some sort of awareness of how much Samson cared for her, or how much Samson was willing to remain by her side. And she still deceived him. She still betrayed him. Judges 16, verse 19. She made him sleep on her knees, and then she called someone to shave the locks of his head, and then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. She said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," and he awoke from his sleep. So overall, what I'm noticing with the kind of women that he is associating himself with, it seems like he's attracted to them. It seems like he's attracted before anything else, which there's nothing wrong with being attracted to somebody, but he's not even having, it seems like he hasn't had like a deep conversation, like getting to know and getting feedback from the people that are around him. So he might have struggled with some sort of lust. And then the women are very persistent and dedicated to getting answers out of him that basically his enemies want. Their dedication and their loyalty is not to Samson, despite how much Samson might care about them or be close to them. They're willing to betray him. They're not on his side. And even though maybe they weren't the right women for him, at the same time, Samson was not discerning. He was not recognizing the pattern. Completely different people, but he was continuing to fall for that same tactics.